Let us see in deep the different factors affecting the adsorption phenomenon. Whenever adsorption is carrying on, there are two substances we take. One is adsorbent, the other is adsorbate. In what way these two substances influence at the first instance we will see. That is, factors affecting the adsorption. The first one is nature of the adsorbate, the substance which gets adsorbed. Here, an adsorbate, if we consider it as a gas, those gases which have very high critical temperature, they are maximum adsorbed. Those gases which have very low critical temperature, they are adsorbed to less extent. For example, carbon dioxide or ammonia gases, that gas would get adsorbed to greater extent than hydrogen, nitrogen or oxygen. Why this should happen? This is because Van der Waals forces decide the adsorption, particularly physical adsorption, we understand. Van der Waals forces are stronger in the gases that have very high critical temperature, because they are easily attracted to one another. Their molecules are easily attracted to one another. That is why gases with high critical temperature, they are maximum adsorbed, and those gases, because of their bulky nature, they get adsorbed on the surfaces to greater extent. Let us see different gases, how they are getting adsorbed. Nature of the adsorbate gas. Different gases we have taken. Hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon monoxide. Hydrogen and nitrogen, we know they have very low critical temperatures. Whereas the way we go from this side to that side, we are finding gases with increase in their critical temperatures. By the time we come to the end, SO2 is there, which is very massive gas. That is, its molecular mass is 64 units, whereas hydrogen is 2 units only, its molecular mass. Then, for every 1 volume of adsorbent, how much gas was, for the given mass of the adsorbent, how much gas was adsorbed? If we see, hydrogen, it is only 4.7 cc in the given mass of the adsorbent, whereas nitrogen 8 units, CO 9.3. All these, of course, they are non-polar substances. Even CH4 is a non-polar substance. CO2, though it is with polar bonds, net result is it is also a non-polar compound. Therefore, net dipole moment is 0. Therefore, these gases, they are adsorbed to very less extent. That's why carbon dioxide, even if the molecular mass is 44 units, it is least adsorbed. HCl being a polar compound, it is adsorbed because of stronger van der Waals forces. It is adsorbed to an extent of 72 cc. Ammonia is 181 cc. Sulfur dioxide is 380 cc. In that way, more the van der Waals force of attraction among the molecules of the adsorbate, more will be their adsorption on the given adsorbent. This data will help us to clearly understand that process. Then, nature of the adsorbent. Here, we have to, in many cases, select a proper adsorbent. The nature of the adsorbent influences the adsorption phenomenon. Particularly, those adsorbents which have maximum surface area with the pores, suitable pores for getting the adsorbate molecules attracted, they will be good adsorbents. One of the best examples as a good adsorbent is activated carbon. Generally, carbon is obtained from wood or another variety of wood, that is lignite, coal, bone, nutshells, or petroleum residues. All these are sources for charcoal. That charcoal we collect from those raw materials, and that charcoal we activate, that is the surface we make totally porous. That can be done by using either CO2, CO, O2 or water vapor. That is, these gases are flown over the solid surface of the carbon, then it becomes activated. This phenomenon is carried out at 573 Kelvin to 1273, that is 1273 Kelvin. Under these conditions, the pores become very clear. That's why it becomes activated charcoal. From normal charcoal you get activated in the sense it is good for adsorption. That charcoal we get, and that can be used in many processes. Other adsorbents we generally use in our labs or in our industries, they are silica gel, Al2O3, even some metals in their finely powdered form like platinum, palladium, etc. Then, surface area of the adsorbent. In what way the surface area affects, we will see. More the surface area, more will be the atoms on the surface getting exposed to the adsorbate, so that adsorbate molecules are attracted to greater extent. Suppose I got one block of, this is one block of carbon. The surface area, you can see, it's if it is square, it will be, you can understand, around the four sides you have surface, even here top and behind also, that is along 6 sides you can see. Whereas if I split this into 2 parts, now I got more surface area exposed. Why? Because here previously it is only one block. Now I made it into 2 pieces, so that this area got exposed, this surface also got exposed. 2 extra surfaces I am getting in addition to the old one. That is why more surface area I got. Definitely compared to this form is a better adsorbent. If I go on splitting these pieces into more in number, automatically more surface areas we get. In that way, a finely powdered metal possesses maximum surface area, or a finely powdered substance, adsorbent, gets maximum surface area. That's why always the adsorbent should be taken in the finely powdered form, that is to make maximum surface available. Therefore, we find in our discussions while preparing so many substances industrially, the catalyst taken where adsorption generally is possible, they are in the powdered form. The powder is to increase the surface area. In that way, more the surface area, more will be the adsorption, that is the substance will act as a good adsorbent or a better adsorbent in the finely powdered form. Then one more factor we have, it is pressure. Pressure of the gas, that is when gas is subjected to a high pressure and then allowed to get adsorbed under high pressure, the gases get adsorption on the surface to greater extent, and there are several scientists who worked on this. One of them is Freundlich, Freundlich, Freundlich. He gave one equation to explain the adsorption phenomenon of adsorbates on adsorbents in terms of pressure. He gave a general equation x by m is equal to k into p to the power of 1 by n, where k is a constant, n is a constant. They purely depend on the nature of the adsorbent. They are related to the adsorbent, and x is the amount of the adsorbate adsorbed for the given mass of m, the given mass of adsorbent. X is the mass of or mass or amount of adsorbate for m, the given mass of adsorbent. This is given by the equation k into x by m is equal to k into p to the power of 1 by n. This equation can be even written in terms of log x by m is equal to log k plus 1 by n log p. What does it mean? When you draw a graph between x by m on this axis and pressure on this axis, in what way the curve would be obtained? More the pressure, more is the adsorption. In that way, here the curve goes like this until some saturation point is reached. The x by m value goes on increasing with increase of pressure. Once equilibrium state is reached, after that, even if we increase the pressure, there will be no effect on the adsorption. That is how effect of pressure you get. More the pressure, more is the adsorption till a saturation is reached, that is equilibrium state is reached. Now if we draw a graph between log x by m and log p, you will get a straight line graph. Say if it is that, then 1 by n will be the slope of the curve, then k will be obtained from the values of log x by m and by 1 by n log p. Otherwise k, log k you can directly get from the intercept on ordinate, that is y axis. In that way, from the intercept also, like this, the intercept gives you the k value, log k value. From that from log k we can calculate k value. This is how Freundlich adsorption isotherm we call it. Why? Because that graph is drawn at different pressures keeping temperature constant. If temperature is varied, what happens? Effect of temperature we will see. If it is physical adsorption, higher the temperature, say this is 275 Kelvin, this is 240 Kelvin, this is 175 Kelvin, adsorption of nitrogen on activated charcoal. Adsorption of nitrogen on activated charcoal, if we see, with the increase of temperature, the adsorption decreases. You can understand, lower the temperature, maximum will be the adsorption, that is higher the adsorption. That is how effect of temperature also we can see. Now if it is chemisorption, this is physical. If it is chemisorption, the curve is coming like this. That is, gradually the adsorption increases with increase of temperature, but once the equilibrium state is reached, afterwards the adsorption decreases. That is how regarding chemisabsorption, the effect of temperature we see, and regarding physical adsorption, the effect of temperature we will see in terms of graphs. This is how we can understand even the effect of temperature on physical adsorption as well as chemical adsorption. Now we will continue the adsorption isotherms. What do you mean by adsorption isotherm? The curve drawn between x by m versus p at a constant temperature. Iso, same. Thermal, heat energy. That means temperature is constant. After seeing Freundlich adsorption isotherms, we will see Langmuir's adsorption isotherms. After seeing Freundlich adsorption isotherm, which explains the effect of pressure on adsorption, we will see Langmuir's adsorption isotherm, which is a relatively modified one. Now, this Langmuir's adsorption isotherm is based on some theoretical principles. It is based on some fundamental points like 1. Adsorption is purely monolayer. It's not pertain to multi-layer system, it is monolayer. That is the theoretical assumption made. Then, because adsorption is surface phenomenon, all surface pores of the adsorbent, they are available for the adsorbate to get its molecules adsorbed. That is why all sites, that is all pores on the surface of the adsorbent are available, and they are equivalent. No one is superior or no one is inferior regarding the adsorption by adsorbate. All get equal chances to get adsorbed, to get the adsorbate molecules. Adsorbate molecules at the same time are independent to occupy any given site. What does it mean? When a molecule of adsorbate is occupying a particular pore or particular site on the surface of the adsorbent, the other sites would not influence. That is, molecules present adjacent to this site, they will not have any attraction, repulsion, etc. This molecule is totally free. The adsorbate molecule is totally free from the neighboring molecules of the adsorbent during its adsorption. And once the adsorption is to the maximum extent, there will be an equilibrium state between the adsorbed molecules of the adsorbate and new coming molecules to get adsorbed on the surface of the adsorbent. That is how, at what rate adsorption takes place. After some time, at the same rate, the desorption, already occupied centers leaving the molecules to some extent, the rate of desorption also will be same. That is how rate of adsorption and rate of desorption, they become equal at after some time, and that situation we say there is an equilibrium state, and that also because still adsorption and desorption continue, we say it is dynamic equilibrium state. That is how in the adsorption process we get, as per Langmuir's isotherm theory, dynamic equilibrium would be established after some time between adsorbed molecules and molecules to be adsorbed. Suppose that we have taken one adsorbent. On that, an adsorbate allows its molecules to get adsorbed. At a particular instant, let us suppose occupied surface area is theta. Then automatically, if total surface area we take it as 1 unit regarding that adsorbent, if theta is occupied by molecules of the adsorbate, then how much is left off? 1 minus theta is the available surface area left for the new coming adsorbate molecules. In this way, here we can understand rate of adsorption. It depends on two factors. One is surface available for the molecules, that is how much available surface 1 minus theta, and second, the pressure of the adsorbate also. More the pressure we came to know, more is the adsorption. That's why rate of adsorption, if you keep it as RA, otherwise simply it is equal to some constant Ka, rate constant, into 1 minus theta into P. Really, rate of adsorption is proportional to 1 minus theta into P, or equal to Ka into 1 minus theta into P. At the same time, because theta is the occupied surface area, rate of desorption, that is for molecules leaving the surface, again from the adsorbent surface to go into vapor phase or gaseous state, rate of desorption is proportional to theta, or rate of desorption is equal to Kd, rate constant for desorption, into theta. If dynamic equilibrium state is established, then at dynamic equilibrium state, rate of adsorption is equal to rate of desorption. What is rate of adsorption? Ka into 1 minus theta into P. What is rate of desorption? Kd into theta. These two are equal. Therefore, from this we can get, if thetas are brought on one side, 1 minus theta by theta is equal to Kd divided by Kap. Or if we get this equation as 1 by theta minus theta by theta is nothing but 1, therefore 1 by theta minus 1 is equal to Kd by Ka into P. Or X by M, that is amount of the gas adsorbed at given time by mass M is equal to K, capital K into theta, whereas theta is equal to capital K into P by 1 plus capital K into P. From where we got K, capital K? This is nothing but Ka by Kd. We have rearranged this equation, this one, in terms of theta, and K by Kd we have substituted by capital K, and then X by M we got it as K into theta, that is equal to small k into K into P by 1 plus capital K into P. Or X by M is equal to, in a simple form if we make it, alpha P by 1 plus K P. Here alpha is K into K. That is here this is taken as another constant alpha P. In that way we got an equation for adsorption isotherm that was proposed by Langmuir. That's why this equation is called Langmuir's adsorption isotherm. Here again we have two constants or two parameters which represent a given system. They are alpha and K. Two constants we have. Based on that we can explain any adsorption isotherm, that is adsorption of a gas by a solid, we can easily discuss by this equation. The adsorption phenomenon is useful in several ways. For example, in the production of high vacuum, means what we do is we keep adsorbents there and allow the gases present there to get adsorbed on the surfaces of these adsorbents. When the gases are removed, vacuum is produced. In that way, production of high vacuum we get. You must be seeing traffic police using these gas masks to avoid pollution. Really, in those gas masks, a good adsorbent like activated charcoal would be kept. It would be absorbing the most poisonous gases like carbon monoxide. In that way, pollution can be prevented, the health can be maintained for the police on the roads who would be checking this traffic. Desiccation. Here you must be seeing some some drugs containing small silica bags, that is silica gel. What is that means? If moisture is there, the medicine gets spoiled or the drug gets spoiled. To prevent that, we use silica bags so that any moisture, any water vapor that comes there would be absorbed by silica gel. In that way, desiccation, that is in special desiccators also, we can use to remove, we can use these adsorbents to remove the moisture. Removal of coloring matter. For example, activated charcoal, if we take and pass activated charcoal, that is sugar solution, if we pass over it, the colored matter that is present in the sugar solution can be removed by that activated charcoal. In that way, many times the impure coloring organic matter mostly would be removed by using proper adsorbents. In that way also we can take heterogeneous catalysis. In most of the reactions, the gas reactions, for example, hydrogen and nitrogen over iron reacting to give ammonia, or otherwise hydrogenation of oils to get fats, particularly nickel is used. All these they are through adsorption, they act as catalysts. That is why the gaseous reactions are between gases, but catalysts are solids, and those catalysts make the reactions quicker by making adsorption of those gases and weakening the bonds between those gas molecules so that they readily react. That is, indirectly, catalysts decrease by adsorption the activation energy value for the given process. Now, separation of noble gases. We clearly understand while discussing noble gases, that is zero group elements, how they are separated. Helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon, all they are taken from, they are obtained from air. From air, the gases are separated, and that mixture is again separated into component gases by using 3 different charcoals, which you had studied in your noble gases chapter. Now, softening of hard water. Softening of hard water also can be possible by Kalgan process. If you take there, what happens is sodium aluminosilicate would be added to water, and water transfers its cations calcium and magnesium to the Kalgan component, and sodium ions are left to the solution. In that way, what would happen is, in the softening of water, this adsorption by the chemical would be taking place. It adsorbs cations that give hardness and releases into the solution or water the cations which don't give any hardness, that is like sodium ions, that you can see. Then deionization of water. If you see ion exchange method for the purification of or for the removal of hardness of water, what happens is practically cations that cause hardness, that is calcium and magnesium, are exchanged with ion exchange resins by hydrogen plus ions, and anion exchange resins, they allow sulfates and chlorides to be adsorbed on them and released to water OH minus. H plus and OH minus obtained at cation exchange resin and anion exchange resin, they form water. In that way, ions, both cations and anions that cause hardness to the water, they are removed, and H plus and OH minus ions are sent into water. That is why the deionization, removal of ions, that process is there. In ion exchange method, you come across about this phenomenon. Then curing of diseases. Sometimes the drugs settle on the surfaces of germs by adsorption, and they kill the germs. By that they practically cure the humans from diseases, cure the animals from diseases. Then cleaning agents. If you take soaps and detergents, these detergents and soaps by adsorption phenomenon react with the dirt on the clothes and remove the dirt. In that way, as cleaning agents also, this adsorption phenomenon is utilized. Then froth flotation. You know, sulfide ores are easily repelled by water molecules and they are removed from water because sulfide ores are attracted by pinoyl, etc. They adsorb pinoyl, etc. and sodium ethyl xanthate or sodium amyl xanthate also form the surface layers over sulfide ore. In that way, sulfide ore is not allowed to get wetted by water, and that will be removed. Sulfide ore will be removed by using the principle of adsorption. Then adsorption indicators. Here you see sometimes in volumetric analysis to find the end point mechanically, because if it is involving a silver nitrate hypo solution or silver nitrate sodium chloride titration, then silver chloride is formed. Where the reaction ends, we don't know. Then we will use some indicators like fluorescein or eosin. When fluorescein is used, it would be adsorbed on the surface of silver halide, that is by adsorption, and here due to the color you get because of fluorescence, you find the end point. In that way, in volumetric analysis, this adsorption phenomenon is used. Then in dyeing, particularly, we specially use mordants on the surfaces of which the colored substances are adsorbed so that the fabric gets the color. That is because of adsorption phenomenon. In this way, in several ways in our daily life, we use the process adsorption. That's why it is very important to know the adsorption, the mechanism of adsorption, and how it is useful in our daily life.